Imagine turning on your computer one morning and realizing that the operating system powering it, something that has shaped personal computing for decades, is no longer controlled by a single corporation, but instead belongs to everyone. The idea of Windows becoming open source feels almost unreal at first, like imagining a completely different technological timeline. For years, operating systems have defined how we interact with machines, how developers build software, and how companies compete. Now picture a world where the very core of one of the most widely used operating systems is freely available for anyone to inspect, modify, and redistribute. It would not just be a technical shift. It would be a transformation that ripples across innovation, security, business models, and even digital freedom. To understand the magnitude of such a shift, you have to think about what Windows represents. It is not just software. It is an ecosystem, a standard, a familiar interface that billions of people rely on daily. From students writing essays to engineers designing complex systems, Windows has become deeply embedded in everyday life. If it were to become open source, the first and most immediate effect would be transparency. Every line of code, every feature, every hidden process would be open for examination. Developers around the world could dive into the system, understand how it works at a fundamental level, and potentially improve it in ways that a single company might never have the time or resources to achieve alone. This kind of openness could lead to a surge in innovation. Instead of waiting for official updates, communities of developers could experiment with new features, optimize performance for specific hardware, or tailor the operating system for entirely new use cases. Imagine specialized versions of Windows designed for education, gaming, scientific research, or even minimal systems for older hardware. The diversity of possibilities would be enormous. It would be similar to what has happened in other open-source ecosystems, where countless variations exist, each optimized for a different purpose or audience. However, innovation would not be the only area impacted. Security would become a major point of discussion. On one hand, open-source software often benefits from collective scrutiny. When thousands of developers can review the code, vulnerabilities are more likely to be discovered and patched quickly. Bugs that might remain hidden in a closed system could be exposed and fixed in record time. On the other hand, the same transparency could also give malicious actors a clearer view of potential weaknesses. The balance between openness and security would become a constant challenge, requiring strong community governance and rapid response systems. Another fascinating shift would occur in the relationship between users and their operating system. Today, most users interact with Windows as consumers. They install it, update it, and use it within the boundaries set by its creators. But in an open-source world, users could become contributors. Even those without deep technical skills could participate by suggesting improvements, reporting bugs, or supporting community-driven projects. This sense of ownership could fundamentally change how people view their devices. Instead of being locked into a predefined experience, they would have the freedom to shape it according to their needs. The business implications of such a move would be equally dramatic. A company that once relied on licensing fees and proprietary control would need to rethink its entire strategy. Revenue models might shift towards services, cloud integration, support subscriptions, or enterprise solutions. Instead of selling the operating system itself, the focus could move to providing value around it. This is not entirely unprecedented. Other companies have successfully built profitable ecosystems around open-source software by offering premium services, tools, and infrastructure. For developers, the open sourcing of Windows would be a game changer. Access to the underlying system would allow for deeper integration, more efficient applications, and greater experimentation. Developers could optimize software in ways that were previously impossible, leading to better performance and new kinds of applications. It could also lower barriers to entry, enabling smaller teams and independent creators to build powerful tools without needing expensive licenses or restricted APIs. The educational impact would be profound as well. Students learning about operating systems would no longer need to rely solely on theoretical knowledge or limited examples. They could explore a real-world system used by millions, gaining hands-on experience with its architecture and design. This could inspire a new generation of programmers and engineers, who are not only users of technology, but active participants in its evolution. Of course, such a transition would not be without challenges. Managing an open-source project of this scale would require careful coordination. Decisions about features, updates, and direction would need to balance community input with a clear vision. Without strong leadership, the project could become fragmented, with multiple versions competing for attention and compatibility issues arising. Ensuring consistency and reliability across different versions would be critical to maintaining user trust. Compatibility itself would be a major concern. One of the strengths of Windows has always been its ability to run a vast range of software. In an open-source scenario, maintaining this compatibility would be essential. Developers and organizations rely on stability, and any disruption could have far-reaching consequences. The challenge would be to encourage innovation without breaking the ecosystem that millions depend on. Another interesting aspect to consider is how hardware manufacturers would respond. Windows has long been a standard platform for PCs, and hardware is often designed with it in mind. If the operating system became open source, manufacturers might have more flexibility to customize it for their devices. This could lead to better optimization and performance, but it could also result in fragmentation if not managed carefully. Striking the right balance between customization and standardization would be key. The cultural impact of such a move should not be underestimated. Open source communities are built on collaboration, shared goals, and a sense of collective ownership. Bringing Windows into this world would merge two very different cultures: the structured, corporate-driven environment of a major software company and the decentralized, community-driven ethos of open source. This fusion could lead to new ways of working, new forms of collaboration, and perhaps even a shift in how technology is developed on a global scale. There's also the question of trust. For many users, Windows is a familiar and reliable platform. Opening it up could increase trust by allowing users to see exactly what the system is doing. Concerns about privacy, data collection, and hidden processes could be addressed through transparency. At the same time, the transition itself might create uncertainty. Users and organizations would need reassurance that the system remains secure, stable, and supported. Looking further into the future, the open sourcing of Windows could influence the broader technology landscape. It might encourage other companies to reconsider their approach to software development, leading to a more open and collaborative environment across the industry. Standards could become more unified, interoperability could improve, and innovation could accelerate as barriers between platforms are reduced. The ripple effects could extend beyond personal computing. Servers, cloud infrastructure, and even emerging technologies like artificial intelligence could benefit from a more open foundation. Developers could build on a shared platform, reducing duplication of effort and focusing on creating new capabilities. This could lead to faster advancements and more accessible technology for people around the world. At the same time, competition would not disappear. It would simply evolve. Companies would compete on the quality of their services, the strength of their ecosystems, and the value they provide to users. The focus would shift from controlling the platform to enhancing it, from ownership to contribution. This could create a healthier, more dynamic industry where innovation is driven by collaboration rather than restriction. It is also worth considering how such a change would affect everyday users who are not deeply involved in technology. For many people, the operating system is simply a tool. They want it to work reliably, efficiently, and without complications. Ensuring that the open-source version of Windows remains user-friendly would be crucial. The complexity of development should not translate into complexity for the user. A well-designed interface and seamless experience would still be essential. Another dimension to explore is the potential for customization. With access to the source code, users and developers could create entirely new interfaces, features, and experiences. This could lead to a level of personalization that goes far beyond what is currently possible. People could shape their operating systems to match their workflows, preferences, and even aesthetic tastes. The line between user and creator would become increasingly blurred. Yet with all these possibilities comes the need for responsibility. Open-source projects rely on communities to maintain quality, security, and direction. Ensuring that contributions are reviewed, tested, and integrated effectively would be a massive undertaking. Governance structures, guidelines, and collaboration tools would play a critical role in keeping the project on track. In the end, the idea of Windows becoming open source is not just about software. It is about reimagining the relationship between technology and society. It raises questions about ownership, control, collaboration, and innovation. It challenges long-standing assumptions and opens the door to new possibilities. Whether such a transformation will ever happen is uncertain. But exploring the idea reveals just how interconnected and dynamic the world of technology has become. As you think about this scenario, consider how it would change your own interaction with technology. Would you explore the system more deeply, customize it to your needs, or even contribute to its development? Would it make you feel more connected to your device, more in control of your digital environment? Or would you prefer the simplicity and structure of a controlled system? These questions highlight the broader impact of such a shift, not just on the industry, but on individuals and communities around the world. The future of technology is shaped by the choices we make today. Open source represents a philosophy of sharing, collaboration, and transparency. Bringing that philosophy to a platform as influential as Windows could redefine what is possible, creating a future where technology is not just built for people, but by people together.